5, 4, 3, 2, 1, 0. All engine running.
In the hidden backdrop of the glorious 1969 moon landing, the United States Air Force hastily canceled a secret spy station program on the cusp of space. America nearly operated a covert manned space platform surveilling global hotspots before NASA reached celestial bodies. Declassified documents reveal an elaborate Air Force initiative to launch the Manned Orbiting Laboratory, MOL, an ambitious orbital reconnaissance station serviced by military astronaut crews. This cutting-edge habitat promised near-continuous high-resolution imaging of strategic sites in the Soviet Union, China, and beyond. However, after nearly billions invested during the Cold War, the MOL fell victim to political missteps and technological limitations in America's rush to weaponize Earth orbit. In this video, we will unravel why the Pentagon scrapped its revolutionary space station on the launch pad after years of classified developments. In 1969, as NASA prepared for triumphant moonwalks, the Pentagon aborted a highly classified spy base in space. America nearly operated orbital espionage stations before reaching other worlds. Declassified files reveal the Manned Orbiting Laboratory, MOL, the military's manned space platform for surveilling global hotspots. This sophisticated habitat held revolutionary potential for intelligence gathering during the Cold War space race. However, after devouring billions of dollars, the covert program met a dramatic demise just months before launching military astronauts. Why did America cancel its most ambitious manned space project on the cusp of mission success? But before we continue, we would like you guys to subscribe to the channel, like this video, and hit the notification bell icon so you do not miss out on any amazing and entertaining content. The origins of the Air Force's covert space program date back to the heightened tensions of the 1960 Cold War era. Both the United States and Soviet Union were racing to demonstrate their technological capabilities through achievements in space exploration. However, the Air Force had more strategic goals in mind than scientific discovery or national pride. Top-secret initiatives explored the possibility of establishing a manned orbital outpost for spying on the Soviet Union. In 1960, the Air Force Systems Command produced a requirement for a reconnaissance satellite system that could deliver film footage in real time. Dubbed Project 1794, the program started developing a mini-space shuttle vehicle that could achieve manned orbits to inspect and maintain surveillance satellites. This precursor to the space shuttle featured a two-person re-entry glider that was compact enough to launch on existing rockets. The Air Force contracted the Martin Company to build and test suborbital prototypes throughout the mid-1960s. By 1965, the Air Force's ambitions in space had expanded considerably, thanks to years of theoretical studies on orbital operations. A newly created Space System Division was tasked with achieving total U.S. supremacy in the space theater. This led military planners to conceiving the Manned Orbiting Laboratory, MOL, an ambitious network of crew-tended space stations designed for reconnaissance and other national security missions. The origins of MOL stemmed from several converging ideas that matured in the early 1960s. Military theorists emphasized establishing perpetual American presence in space, while engineers researched the feasibility of outfitting crewed space stations for imaging and electronic eavesdropping. Design concepts depicted modular space stations expanded over time, or specialized labs focused on certain functions like high-resolution photography. The common theme involved using teams of military astronauts to operate cutting-edge surveillance equipment that was impossible to achieve with fully robotic satellites. By late 1963, an ambitious implementation plan had taken shape thanks to newly available hardware from NASA's manned space programs, most notably the upcoming Gemini space capsule. A typical operational concept envisioned a three-person crew occupying an orbiting lab at about the same altitude as Soviet spy satellites. Each three-week mission would extensively monitor relevant defense targets before swapping out the crew. While the USAF owned the space capsule and station modules, overall management was delegated to defense contractors like McDonnell Douglas. Engineering studies throughout 1964 determined the feasibility of launching modular space station components on Titan 3C rockets. In November, a final configuration emerged, a two-part MOL station consisting of a Gemini B spacecraft docked to a large pressurized cylinder containing the manned laboratory. This main capsule provided ample working room and viewing ports for the surveillance equipment. The chosen orbit of about 270 miles, 435 kilometers, matched that employed by Soviet spy satellites for optimum data comparisons. By 1965, MOL had rapidly progressed from theoretical concept to approved development program with an aggressive schedule. Two contractors received awards. Douglas was to produce the laboratory while General Electric would integrate the reconnaissance systems. Securing funding took some creativity on the USAF's part as congressional oversight was strictly focused on NASA. Officials framed MOL as an advanced piloted spacecraft program that was vital for maintaining America's edge over increasingly aggressive Soviet efforts. Approved budgets were framed as modifications of NASA's canceled Dinosaur spaceplane. This administrative shell game provided sufficient cover and cash flow to ramp up construction. The MOL space station represented the apex of Air Force ambitions to weaponize Earth orbit in order to achieve definitive intelligence superiority over the Soviets. However, as we'll explore later, MOL became so bloated in operational scope that it ultimately collapsed under its own weight. But for a few heady years, crews of military astronauts promised to bring Cold War competition to the high ground in ways NASA never envisioned. The golden age of space stations as ultimate spy platforms beckoned, if only technology could keep up with imaginations. By 1966, the Manned Orbiting Laboratory program was well underway, representing the most complex and expensive reconnaissance platform ever conceived. The very existence of MOL remained classified as workers raced to assemble a futuristic spy station fed by a steady stream of military astronauts and high-tech gadgetry. If successfully deployed, the modular space base promised near-continuous monitoring of strategic Soviet targets from the ultimate vantage point. The MOL configuration approved for full development centered on a sophisticated lab module designed by Douglas Aircraft. Shaped like a flattened cylinder, the station provided more internal space than NASA's cramped Gemini capsule, thanks to a diameter of over 11 feet. Total pressurized volume reached almost 5 times that of Gemini at 1,175 cubic feet. Besides 2 astronauts, the station could accommodate 1,900 pounds of surveillance gear while maintaining a shirt-sleeve environment. The station featured 4 large viewports, aligned for optimum outward viewing angles along the flight path. While orbiting the planet every 90 minutes, the lab's orientation remained fixed relative to its direction of travel. This offered stable views for operating the downward-pointing camera systems. Much of the internal space housed film processors and computer workstations to manage the various imaging modes. Consumables like oxygen, water, and fuel cells provided week-long orbital endurance. The heart of MOL comprised the intelligence gathering systems integrated by General Electric. Cameras offered resolutions much higher than previous film return satellites, along with a rapid revisit rate. MOL crews would methodically photograph denied regions in the Soviet Union, China, and other hotspots before canisters of exposed film descended to Earth via capsule. In addition, side-looking radar imaged obstacles like cloud cover, while an infrared scanner added night and all-weather capabilities. An electronic intelligence package monitored Soviet radar and communications signals. The range of sensors planned for MOL exceeded anything operated robotically at the time. And unlike fickle satellites, onboard astronauts added unique value for troubleshooting gear or refining target lists. In fact, engineers designed the lab's layout for efficient shirt-sleeve servicing of components. The political reasoning behind MOL also emphasized having humans in control versus fully automated spacecraft, which were still considered unreliable. Of course, the ultimate goal involved keeping American eyes firmly fixed on Soviet activities from low orbit. To support such an ambitious platform, the military assembled an elite team of astronaut spies recruited from the most experienced air crews. Nearly all of the 17 MOLS candidates held test or combat pilot credentials along with engineering degrees. And importantly, each volunteer had already received a top-secret clearance, reflecting the espionage aspects of their upcoming space missions. Following basic scientific training, MOL astronauts underwent 2 years of intensive preparations tailored for intelligence gathering duties. For example, classes covered orbital mechanics, space navigation, computing, and Soviet hardware recognition. The crewmen also practiced interpreting high-resolution photography and radar images of strategic sites. Mirroring NASA missions, MOL trainees participated in realistic simulations of station launches, spacewalks, experiments, and re-entry protocols. Special centrifuges exposed crews to the disorienting gravity forces endured during early rocket boosts or later capsule descents. However, the Air Force program differed by emphasizing extensive survival and resistance training in case of emergency landings behind enemy lines. In a fascinating sidebar, recently declassified files reveal that 4 MOL candidates actually served as undercover CIA operatives before joining more conventional space missions. Their covert backgrounds including parachuting into Korea and Vietnam war zones for classified assignments. Other MOL crewmen supported secret U-2 spy plane missions or analyzed early satellite images. Such unique experiences eased the transition to planning ambitious intelligence operations from orbit. The greater MOL team envisioned lengthy flight schedules spanning years where multiple specialist crews rotated duty tours, staffing the modular station. The first fully operational MOL would maintain continual Earth surveillance from a relatively low and radiation-resistant orbit compared to contemporaries. Regular crew swaps enabled by NASA's proven Gemini vehicle allowed uninterrupted 24-hour operation across 3 daily shifts. As the program evolved, expanded pressurized modules launched later might support 6 to 12 military astronauts working in specialized teams. In many ways, the Manned Orbiting Laboratory promised functions resembling today's International Space Station, but with a defense orientation and 1960s technology. MOL astronauts represented the best America had to offer to decisively leverage high ground over rivals. If the elaborate orbital facility operated as intended, no Soviet activities could escape the gaze fixed from laboratories crewed by military spacemen. However, as progress unfolded, this ambitious space-age dream encountered growing challenges rooted in earthly realities. By 1969, the Manned Orbiting Laboratory had consumed over $1.3 billion while promising to revolutionize orbital reconnaissance if fully realized. But after years of classified development, the elaborate spy station faced cancellation just months before its first crewed launch. What factors doomed America's premier manned space program before achieving orbit? The demise of MOL stemmed from both external budgetary forces and internal technical shortcomings. While NASA's public feats like the moon landings captured headlines, MOL unfolded quietly in the shadows. The program required complete secrecy to conceal advanced surveillance technologies, along with military astronauts destined for espionage duties. Unlike NASA, no public excitement or political capital sustained MOL as costs escalated. The intense budget pressures of the late 1960s increasingly sidelined expensive space efforts lacking clear near-term impact. Early cost estimates for developing and launching MOL stations more than doubled by 1967. The Vietnam War and Great Society programs stressed fiscal budgets while the moon race piqued NASA funding. Skeptical congressmen balked at fielding additional multi-billion-dollar space systems amid calls for austerity. Rising strategic missile and satellite programs also challenged MOL's core objective to augment reconnaissance abilities. By the late 1960s, improving spy satellites showed signs of matching the resolution predicted from MOL visual scans. New Corona satellites incorporated superior film processing while gambling polygon cameras captured wide swaths of terrain. Quicker launch cycles also enabled more frequent revisits above priority zones. Such unmanned progress threatened making MOL obsolete in some analysts' eyes. They projected robotic systems possessing equal or superior capabilities within a few years. Why send vulnerable human crews with all their mission support demands if satellites sufficed? By 1969, even the Secretary of Defense questioned MOL's advantage beyond a brief technological head start. Within a strict cost-benefit context, expendable satellites operated more cheaply if capabilities approached parity. However, MOL's downfall also stemmed from consistent failures managing internal complexity beyond just external budget frustration. The highly sophisticated space laboratory taxed 1960s technology across numerous fronts. Review boards criticized creeping scope expansion and inadequate systems engineering as engineers struggled coordinating so many novel work streams. For example, severe difficulties integrating the pressurized lab with Gemini vehicles forced major redesigns and delays. Gemini capsules, originally modified to dock with the station, kept failing mandatory test criteria for loads and vibration. By 1968, some officials eyed abandoning the proven Gemini component altogether for fresh capsule designs. However, such alternatives risked additional costly delays to resolve. Likewise, researchers pushed the limits developing specialized cameras, sensors, and film-developing gear needed for the ambitious surveillance mission. Operational integration challenges mounted trying to refine so many experimental systems at once. Hardware problems affected all aspects from computer guidance interfaces to keeping film from jamming during processing. By 1969, Inspector General reports slammed MOL's dragging progress developing reusable systems while meeting spaceworthy standards. They also questioned the project's management structure split between the military, NASA, and contractors, all with conflicting priorities and poor coordination. A timeless scenario of designs progressing past initial technological maturity haunted late phases. The manned laboratory also endured extensive weight gains problem, further complicating the strained launch vehicle approach. Engineers struggled keeping MOL's final orbital mass within lifting capability margins after years of expanding capability requirements. The Titan IIIC rocket selected could only lift a portion of the gold-plated orbital system envisioned by planners. Thus, MOL risked being divided into smaller, less capable modules if indeed it reached space at all. Such serious development roadblocks damaged MOL's credibility, just as Earth-orbiting satellites delivered improved results. So by mid-1969, with manned launches a year away, rising costs finally exceeded expected benefits for even staunch program defenders. After a final policy review, the Defense Department terminated efforts in June, despite the massive sunk investment. While officially ending due to budget cuts, MOL clearly suffered even more from technical shortcomings managers failed to restrain. In retrospect, the manned laboratory promised exceedingly more than Cold War technology could sustain, but the confluence of high ambition and chronic mismanagement ultimately sacrificed the chance for military astronauts to pioneer space stations. Ironically, as MOL secreted away untold billions, the first footsteps on another world captivated public imaginations. This revealed a growing divide between NASA's outward glare of exploration achievements and the darker inner world of spy satellite engineering. The abrupt cancellation of the Air Force's Manned Orbiting Laboratory program in 1969 appeared an embarrassing setback on the surface. Years of ambitious black budget funding totaling over $3 billion resulted in only a few test articles and no actual launches. However, the abandoned orbital platform still influenced later military space projects and policies in less visible ways. Furthermore, tantalizing secrets about MOL's full capabilities continue fueling conspiracy theories despite increased transparency. What lessons should we draw from this fascinating side note in space history? Firstly, the requirement for manned presence in Earth orbit to operate specialized reconnaissance gear continued influencing post-MOL space station plans. For example, the 1980s push from Reagan's Star Wars program revisited continuous space-based surveillance to monitor Soviet missile tests and troop activities. The Air Force Dynamic Surveillance System conceptualized a modular station much like MOL. Although never implemented, such proposals built directly from MOL's trailblazing evidenced the persistent utility of manned orbital outposts. On the conspiracy front, the abrupt termination of MOL fuels questions about what else it hid besides lavish funding waste. The obvious intelligence pedigree of military astronauts performing visual reconnaissance for months raises spy film implications. Even today, the full scope of imaging targets and square footage photographed remains classified. and the National Reconnaissance Office still refuses to release specific details about the powerful camera system specifications or resolution quality. Surely this surveillance gear probed even more deeply than publicly acknowledged. What exactly did MOL see before cancellation? Some theorists also speculate that MOL served purposes beyond just taking photos, like testing next-generation surveillance devices too problematic for robotic satellites of the era. Perhaps specialized sensors for intercepting wider ranges of communications or radar emissions needed astronauts to aim them. Might equipment intended for signals hacking or jamming require manual intervention as well? The convenient cover of human spaceflight could have facilitated all manner of electronic shenanigans. Of course, the other lingering question involves why MOL remained classified so intensely for nearly 50 years until document declassifications in 2015. If MOL was just an over-budget camera platform that never reached space, why impose such extraordinary secrecy for decades? Some suspect the laboratory hardware performed additional undisclosed Cold Warfare functions too sensitive to admit until recently. Even now, fully transparent disclosures of the military astronauts' curriculum vitae remain elusive. And so the curtain closed on America's first dedicated space station before it ever left the atmosphere. Let me know what you think about the ambitious but doomed manned orbiting laboratory program. Did America make a mistake canceling such an advanced manned space initiative? Also, be sure to like this video, subscribe to my channel, and hit the notification bell for more fascinating videos.